Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
All persons not entitled to privileges of the floor under the rules of the Senate will now vacate the chamber.
Please rise for the invocation by Pastor Clint Elliott, Harrods Creek Baptist Church, Crestwood, Kentucky, guest of the Senator from Oldham, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in prayer, will you? Lord God, as I stand here, I am reminded and so thankful that you ordained government for great purpose and for the common good. And so we give thanks as we gather. Lord, I'm thankful for each person, man and woman, here today who has stepped into this public service. God, I pray your blessing upon them. Lord, I pray the words of your prophet Amos over them, Lord, that in and through their lives and their work here, justice would roll down like a river and righteousness flow like living streams of water. Father, I pray that you will empower them to do that, give them your wisdom to do that. I pray that you would give them great unity to come together for the common good of our great commonwealth. Father, I pray in the midst that they will increasingly experience your rich mercy and your great love for them and your amazing grace extended to them, and through them they will extend that to others in our commonwealth with their work here. And Father, above all, I pray, God, that they, each person, man and woman here today, will listen for and listen to your voice above all else, above the noise, the distractions, the world, that there will be their first priority, your voice, Father. I pray in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg, Senator Boswell, Senator Carpenter, Senator Carroll, Senator Chambers Armstrong, Senator Clemens, Senator Deneen, Senator Douglas, Senator Elkins, Senator Funky Fromeyer, Senator Girdler, Senator Givens, Senator Herron, Senator Higdon, Senator Howell, Senator Maiden, Senator Mays-Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel, Senator Meredith, Senator Mills, Senator Neal, Senator Nemes, Senator Nunn, Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Rawlings, Senator Reed, Senator Richardson, Senator Smith, Senator Stivers, Senator Storm, Senator Thomas, Senator Tishner, Senator Webb, Senator West, Senator Wheeler, Senator Williams, Senator Wilson, Senator Wise. I got it.
There being 37 members present, a quorum is declared, Senate's authorized and prepared to do business. First order of business would be excuse of the absent senator. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that the absent senator be excused, please.
Without objection, the absent senator is excused. Next order of business is approval of the journal. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that the Journal from Monday, February 23rd, 2026 be approved as written.
Without objection, the Journal from Monday, February 23rd, 2026 is approved as written. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, thank you. We welcome all those that are watching us live from KET as well as live stream from the internet, and those that also may be in the annex from the viewing room there. We welcome them as they take part in the proceedings as we conduct Day 33, Mr. President, of the legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator from Taylor. Before we go on with our regular order of business, the Chair would recognize the Senator from Grayson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Clerk of the House is here to communicate with our Senate.
Mr. Clerk, welcome.
Mr. President, the House has passed House Bill 168, 185, 249, 455, and respectfully request concurrence of this honorable body.
Thank you, sir. We'll continue going on, there being no need for second reading of bills on the calendar. We'll go to the report of committees. Mr. Clerk, you have a report. Please proceed.
The Agriculture Committee has met and reports Senate Bill 37 should pass. Senate Bill 214 should pass. The Banking and Insurance Committee reports Senate Bill 157 should pass. Senate Bill 189 should pass with Senate Committee Sub 1. And the Families and Children Committee has met and reports Senate Joint Resolution 54 should pass with Senate Committee Sub 1.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
All those bills and resolutions having received a favorable committee report shall be deemed as having their first reading and are to be placed upon the calendar. Next order of business would be introduction of new bills and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, do you have a report? Please proceed.
New bills and resolutions. Senate Bill 226, an act relating to pre-need burial contracts. Senator Elkins. Senate Resolution 113, a resolution adjourning the Senate in a loving memory and honor of Robert Conley Young. Senator Stivers.
Mr.
It
Clerk.
does.
Thank you, sir. Next order of business would be orders of the day. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, thank you. As the orders are displayed before us, I move that Senate Bill 101 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Bill 101.
Senate Bill 101, an act relating to children. Senator Nunn.
Senator from Taylor.
President, I yield to the Senator from Scott for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 101 does a couple of things. Number one, it requires a mandatory 12-month expulsion for students 6 through 12 if they assault a school employee. There are two exceptions to that requirement. One is for a student who has an IEP as a result of a disability, and if that assault is determined to be a manifestation of that disability, they would be exempted from that requirement. The other is for an assault that may be the result of a provocation by a school employee, and the school board in that instance would be able to consider all the facts and determine if an expulsion is required there. The second thing that it does, Mr. President, is it creates a mandatory reporting requirement for all instances of assault. Kentucky Education Association shared shortly after my bill was filed that there have been 25,000 reported instances of assault in our Commonwealth alone against teachers since 2021. That's an average of 5,000 per year. And I've learned from talking to people that that is a underreported incidents. These things are not always reported, so 25,000 is on the low end of what actually happens in our schools. And so the reporting requirement is important, and just as important is the penalty for failure, intentionally failing to report an incident of assault against a school employee. Mr. President, this was the first bill that I had drafted shortly after my election, actually before I was even sworn into office, And it's because that's a story that I've been aware of for many years. Before I even considered running for office, my wife and I were out to dinner with a couple friend of ours, and the wife in that relationship, she mentioned that she was scared to go to work many days, and I was kind of taken aback by that comment, and I asked her why, and she said, Matt, there are boys in my class that are as big as you, and people watching at home might not know, but I'm about 6'3", 240 or so. And they have no respect for my authority and no fear of consequences, and that worried her. And she had seen and heard instances of assault against school employees, and so she was really worried about those working conditions. And I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think anyone should have to fear for their safety just going to work, especially if all they're wanting to do is teach our children. And so I do have a story here that a teacher in my district emailed and shared, and she gave permission for me to share the story. So I'll take just a couple minutes, Mr. President. I'm reading her words verbatim here. She said, I want to write and thank you personally for sponsoring Senate Bill 101. As a teacher whose career ended due to the violent actions of a student, I can attest that this is a necessary, timely, and important legislation. I worked for almost 15 years in education. I loved my kids, all of them. In what turned out to be my final year, I was left in an impossible situation. A student with a history of assault on teachers was moved into a class of 38. In that class, there were several students he'd had serious altercations with in the past, so much so he was never supposed to be in a classroom with two of them. Both were in that class of 38. I offered to give up my planning period to teach him one-on-one. All these options were refused. For 16 weeks, I provided written documentation of how things were escalating between this young man and another student. During those 16 weeks, desks were overturned, mine included. Materials were destroyed. I found myself scrambling over tables to get between them. I was smacked across the face with a full backpack in one of those instances, in full view of an administrator. I still remember sitting on the front porch crying, telling my husband that something terrible was going to happen, and then it did. During a central office walkthrough, student A, as she refers to the student, was getting increasingly frustrated with me. I was meeting with him one-on-one at my desk to try to come up with a plan to get some of his missing work turned in. He didn't want to talk about that, so he began yelling at student B as a distraction. I separated them once again. When the bell rang, I asked an admin to escort student A to class while I escorted student B. I didn't see what happened, but I do know that student A slipped away from the administrator. I am not restraint trained. I could not physically restrain either of them. All I could do was what I'd been doing. I put my body between them, and I took the brunt of it all. Student A had assaulted a pregnant teacher the year before, and he'd gotten a 3-day suspension. It was unlikely to be any different this time, and it wasn't. He was given another 3-day suspension, but it's important to know that the reason for the suspension was the fight with the other student, not assaulting a teacher. I ended up with a torn labrum, scapular injury, dislocated ribs, whiplash, rotator cuff damage, cuts, bruises, a contusion on the back of my head, etc. I was punched, kicked, stepped on, shoved to the ground. Despite 16 weeks of documentation showing we were headed to this type of situation, 2 instances of previous assaults on me, and doing everything I could to protect student B, my career ended that day. 2 surgeons chose not to clear me to return. It's not just my career that my family lost. We lost my income and our insurance, and I lost the joy of helping kids who needed me most. I walked into school that morning determined to try a new positive behavior strategy for student A that I'd been studying. I left bloody and broken. Had student A faced genuine and impactful consequences the first time he harmed a teacher, this situation simply wouldn't have occurred. Further, the teacher he hurt before should have been shown that what happened to her mattered. Instead, in both cases, it was treated as a hazard of the job, something that just happens to teachers now. But at no point in my education was I trained for this. So, Mr. President, the story there and the story of my friend and the at least 25,000 other instances of assault against teachers in our Commonwealth are why I want to help improve the situation. Frankly, one of the reasons why I decided to run for this office. You know, there's three things that I want to make sure I make clear. I don't think it's fair to teachers who merely want to earn a living. They shouldn't be fearful at work, and they certainly shouldn't be assaulted. This condition often leads to teachers leaving the profession. It's not fair to them to leave their chosen profession, a career they went to college for, because they fear for their safety. And the last point I want to make, Mr. President, is we talk a lot about how this legislation might affect the expelled student. I like to say, what about the other students that are in the building that just want to get an education? When good teachers leave, instruction suffers. It's not fair to those students who need good teachers. It's also not fair to continue exposing them to the risk presented by a student who would be bold enough to assault a school employee. So for those reasons, Mr. President, I ask my colleagues to support me and move for passage of Senate Bill 10. Sorry. We do have a committee sub, Mr. President.
Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 101.
Senate Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 101.
Senator from Scott.
Move for passage of move for adoption of Senate Committee Substitute 1.
The matter before the body is adoption of Senate Committee Substitute number 1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Committee Substitute number 1 is adopted. Now, Senator from Scott, do you have a motion on the bill as amended?
I do, Mr. President. I move for passage of Senate Bill 101 as amended by Senate Committee Substitute 1.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 101 as amended by Senate Committee Substitute number 1. Senator from Fayette, 13. You are seeking recognition by the chair.
Thank you, Mr. President.
For what purpose?
To speak against the bill, please.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. President, I believe in several things. I believe in personal accountability. I believe that people should own up to when they do things wrong and misbehave. And I believe in punishing those who've done something wrong and harmed people. But, Mr. President, I guess what I also believe is that a child is a child and should not be treated the same as an adult, particularly a young child who's 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, Mr. President, I recognize that we've reached a point in our society where there are some significant discipline problems in our school. That we really have some very bad children. And to some extent, Mr. President, that saddens me because I recall when I was a child and going to school, and in those days, we just didn't see this. All the teacher would have to say is put their hand down, raise their voice, and say, if you don't do this, I'm going to send you to the principal. And Mr. President, that was enough. But too often and too sadly, it seems that those are days gone by. And yes, I've listened to the senator from Scott, and I can understand why there are some teachers who think that we need to be a little harsher here. But I will submit to you today, Mr. President, and I'll submit to all of my colleagues in this chamber, that that's not the view of all the teachers. I have to tell you, I've really struggled with this bill. And as a result, I've talked to numerous teachers that I know. I spend a lot of time with teachers anyway, as most of you know. And I have to tell you that in my discussions and conversations with the teachers that I associate with and who've been willing to talk with me, the overwhelming majority of them think that this bill goes too far. Should the children be punished? Absolutely. Should we discipline students for battery assault? Absolutely, no question. Mr. President, when we talk about requiring, and that's the language used in this bill, and as we all know, language matters in this legislation. You know, requiring children from grade 6 to grade 12 to be expelled for a year. Friends, we're talking about, again, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, children. These are children. And if we expel them for a year, Mr. President, the reality, and we all need to understand this, the reality is we have lost that child. And what this legislation does is create a huge number of children who become part of the lost generation that we have given up on a society. I submit, Mr. President, that there's a better approach to take. I think a better bill, in my opinion, Mr. President, would be to give discretion to the principal. We've talked a lot about informing principals and training principals, to give discretion to the principals as to how to handle and deal with that. To basically say that you are out of school for a year, Mr. President, we will have put that child out of school forever. That child's not coming back and becoming an angel at the end of the year. And we've got to acknowledge that. Now, the bill does provide, and Senator Scott didn't speak to this, that in lieu of expelling, the school district can set up an alternative program to teach that trial. And certainly in districts like Jefferson County or Fayette County, you have those alternatives. But not every school district, and there are 171 in this state, not every school district has that alternative type program. And for those who don't have them, there is no alternative for that child. I'm not going to belabor this, my point, Mr. President, and I'll soon take my seat. But after a lot of consternation and self-reflection and self-analysis, I just cannot vote on a bill that creates a lost generation for students who really, through no fault of their own, because of their own home life, or because of the mental health problems that they face, or because somewhere along the way, Mr. President, we as a society have failed them because we haven't done enough. I cannot let these 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders, these 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids, fall down into an abyss that they cannot escape from. And it's so for that reason, Mr. President, that I am going to vote no on Senate Bill 101. And I ask all the members, all my colleagues here to search their souls and ask themselves, is this the way we want to go into approaching discipline for our children? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Jefferson 26.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator from Scott yield to a question, please?
Senator from Scott, will you yield to a question?
Of course, Mr. President.
Senator from Jefferson 26, he will yield to a question.
Thank you, sir. I had not heard until I sat on the floor today that we have 25,000 instances of children attacking students or teachers in this state over the past, did you say?
Senator
10
from
years?
Scott.
Since 2021, yes.
2021. So over the past 5 years. So, sir, under this new law, what number of those 25,000 students would be expelled for a year?
Senator from Scott.
Because of the exemptions, it's hard to say of those 25,000, how many would have occurred in grades K through 5, for example, how many of those were students with IEPs, for example, or how many students the board would found had acted that way out of provocation from a school employee, a teacher or another employee. So it's hard to say exactly how many of those 25,000. Now, what I can say after, almost 2 years of researching this, I can say fairly confidently that a large percentage of that 25,000 are students with IEPs, and therefore likely would be exempted in this situation due to federal law, and this bill allows for that exemption because of federal law.
All right, a follow-up, sir, please.
Senator from Jefferson, 26.
Just to make sure I understand.
you wanting
No, I
another
just want to
question?
clarify and make sure I understand the answer, sir.
Okay.
So we have 25,000 students in the last 5 years, 4 years, and you're saying you think maybe 30% of those? So we're talking about 700 students being expelled per year over that time period?
Senator from Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I'd say two things. I don't want to speculate on an exact number, but what I will say again is based upon the research and that I've heard and looked at, and anecdotal evidence that I've been exposed to or given, a large percentage of students that do this do have an IEP, and so they'd be exempted. But another thing that we need to remember, in the story that I shared, at least 2 of those assaults were from one person, a repeat offender, a student who assaulted a pregnant teacher the year before and then assaulted another. So that two of the assaults. So I would think between students with IEPs and students who have done this multiple times against school employees would make up a fair percentage of that 25,000. In fact, I got another email yesterday from a teacher in a district, and I won't share her entire story, but she was the victim of a pretty egregious assault, and that child was also a repeat offender. So I think between those two situations alone, we can surmise that a large portion of that 25,000 are either repeat offenders or students with IEPs.
Senator from
thank
Jefferson,
you.
26. Do you have further need?
I speak against the bill, sir.
Proceed.
I'm really concerned when we go from 25,000 kids being expelled for a year to we have absolutely no idea how many children this will actually impact, because we're going to start excluding all of them from this law that we're making. These are young children. There are almost always exigent circumstances of some sort. And to say that we will require these students to be expelled for a year, I don't give up on people that easily. My mother used to. She used to say they're incorrigible, there's nothing you're going to do, they will not improve, and give up. And I never believed that. I never gave up in my belief that people could get well, that people could become productive, and that everybody deserves a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth chance. I think our children deserve a lot more than this. Thank you.
Seeing no other persons seeking recognition, Madam Clerk, the question before the body is passage of Senate Bill 101 as amended. Please call the roll.
Senator Berg. No. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas.
Senator from Jesmond, please cast your vote, then explain, limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to cast an aye vote, but I really want to explain why. There's no doubt that when we look at our school discipline or lack of school discipline, that the reasons the reasons that discipline is carried out or not carried out is multifactorial. There are a lot of things, a lot of reasons why it doesn't or does occur in our school system. But you know, Mr. President, I really arise because I'm sitting in this chamber and I'm listening to the arguments against this. And some of the same people who are saying that we need to treat our children as children, and we need to make, have excuses and make sure that we give them better guardrails, are the same people who argued that we shouldn't be in charge. We shouldn't let parents or caregivers be in charge of the students' medical records or be in charge of the decisions they're making as minors when it comes to procedures. So I'm not quite sure what chamber I'm in right now. This bill can be picked, but this bill has a lot of really good things for a starting point. It keeps parents and caregivers aware of student progress and how they socialize. It clears the way for the uninvolved students to actually pursue their learning in a more comfortable, a more controlled environment. It returns a lot of trust, not only in our teachers, but to our teachers, to be able to control their classrooms. And it also helps build some support from their administrators who can take more responsibilities. Our teachers want our students to learn, and we need to help them. And finally, Mr. President, it also returns some of that responsibility of parenting back to those of us who are either having the children or who are the caregivers for these children. So I ask everyone in this chamber today to please support the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Elkins. Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Senator from Campbell, please cast your vote, then explain. Limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to speak in favor of the bill, but I especially want to give praise to our senator from Scott for his diligence in his preparation for this bill. The legislative interim is probably the most important time that we can really dig deep before even filing a bill. And as you've seen today, this does have a committee substitute as well. So the process doesn't end after you've filed a bill, it continues. And this has gone through the committee process. It's now here on the floor, but there's been some amendments. So the senator from Scott has listened, but not just to us, he listened to the educators. He spent a tremendous amount of time, and I want to compliment him. Middle school in Twin Hoffel for me back in the day in the Kenton County school system, it was quite an experience. Well, the senator from Scott went back to Twin Hoffel and spent some time with my brother, who is a middle school teacher, athletic director, football coach. But the senator from Scott really listened and recognized that if we don't get to these middle schoolers and these high schoolers, they become unaccountable adults. We're trying to work on accountability. This isn't about an accountability measure. It's about supporting our teachers. And I can't think of anything more important than to support our teachers and perhaps what my grandma to us used to say, jerk a knot in their tail. Yes, they may have to step away from school and enjoy the school experience as it is, but they can still learn. There's tremendous opportunity as we've created excellent online learning tools as well. And these young people are going to have an opportunity before they become adults in the criminal system, because that's the pathway if we don't address this right here, right now. So I absolutely applaud the senator from Scott, and I vote aye.
Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays-Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith.
Senator from Grayson, please cast your vote, then explain, limited to 3 minutes.
I vote aye. I think it was 3 interim sessions ago, I heard one of the most disturbing statistics I've heard probably in my lifetime. And that dealt with human brain development. We had 3 physicians from the University of Kentucky. We were talking about the tragic issue of teenage suicide, and they noted that in the year 1900, that period, the brain was fully developed at 18 years of age. And they said today it's 25 years plus. That's just scared the daylights out of all of us. We've lost generations. And it's because of the lack of accountability, lack of expectations. I appreciate the Senator from Fayette 13's remarks about the way it used to be. And I remember growing up, respect for teachers. You knew there were consequences. And unfortunately, very few consequences today. And I remember when I acted up myself, my parents would say, you need to grow up and act like an adult. If we think that because a kid turns 18, it magically flips a switch and they're adult, we're wrong. It's a process. And it starts when they're very, very young with expectations and responsibilities, and we don't have those expectations of children anymore. We have to change this dynamic or we're going to encounter more problems in the future. I remember when we passed the bill giving 3 mental health days to students, which I thought was a mistake, because you have to learn to deal with adversity. And I remember, again, when I was a kid, one of the most traumatic experiences of my life was losing my starting position on my freshman basketball team. I could have used one of those mental health days, but instead, Mom and Dad say, you're going to school. That's what you're supposed to do. This is a good bill, but it's just a start. If we really want to protect our children, we need to make them accountable for their actions. So thank you.
Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemes. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner.
Senator from Oldham, please cast your vote, then explain.
I would like to cast an aye vote, Mr. President. This interim, I had the opportunity to be in a discussion with some of my colleagues with some of our rural districts who were asking for funding for a program in a building that they could purchase so that they could deal with students who are having behavioral issues. And the conversation shifted more towards, why is this happening in our schools? And they said, our hands are tied. We can't address these issues. This puts in measures so that we can make sure these issues are going to be addressed without subjectivity, but with a requirement. Our teachers do not need to go to work and be afraid. Our students do not need to go to school and be traumatized. And this is going to allow our schools to absolutely deal with the issue, not have any question if it needs to be dealt with. And the sooner we can address these issues, as some of my colleagues have mentioned, the better we'll be in the future, and we'll have a society that where kids understand they'll have to be responsible for their actions. So for that reason, I vote aye, and I thank the Senator from Scott for his work on this bill.
Senator Webb.
Senator from Carter, please cast your vote, then explain, limited to 3 minutes.
I vote no, Mr. President. I appreciate the intent of the bill and the work the sponsor's done. Unfortunately, in my district, the headlines lately have been where school personnel have been abusing students. And I just felt compelled, we can never do enough to do that. But also, in my day job, I actually practice juvenile law. I actually represent these students that chapter specifies. And I've done it lately during this session. But not every student that needs an IEP has one. Not every district has what I would call an appropriate alternate placement. We have duly elected school boards that we're usurping authority from, and I'm not always happy with them either, sometimes, but in how they handle some of these things, whether it's an assault against a teacher, assault against a student. But they have the authority now to deal with these scenarios. Believe me, I I practice before them and higher than the administrative process there. But they already have the tools needed to provide expulsion under these terms. I don't like micromanaging other duly electeds unless they absolutely fail in that capacity across the board. And you know, doing juvenile death penalty research for the last 20-some years, the evidence has shown that particularly in young males, that brain capacity, rewiring takes place up to the mid-20s. And factor in all the other socioeconomic things that students go through in my district and your all's too, that can cause for what might be deemed abuse, which under the statute could almost be something offensive, however that's interpreted. And I have concerns about that, how this law be applied across the board and the impact on those students if we take discretion away in those scenarios that should be deemed on a case-by-case basis. I vote no.
Senator West.
Senator from Bourbon, please cast your vote, then explain. But let me say this to the members. If you can, I'm watching my queue, so if you would, please enter it into the queue. Senator from Bourbon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I vote aye, and just want to comment briefly. I want to thank the Senator from Scott bringing this good piece of legislation. One piece I like about it is the deterrent effect. Currently, in many situations, these things occur in the schools, and horrific things happen. Nothing's done about it. So that sends a clear and distinct message to every student in the school that, you know, we can do whatever we want to do. You know, there's no discipline in the school, and it erodes the teacher's ability to rule the classroom. But the reason for this bill is not because Senator from Scott got up one day and had an inkling. This is something I want to do. As with a lot of legislation we pass here in the legislature, we've been pushed into this spot. We've been pushed into this spot because districts aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They're not handling these situations. The Senator from Carter is absolutely right. They have the tools they need. They do. They do have the tools they need, but they're not being used. They are not being used at all. And today, with passage of this bill, the legislature has had to come in and act. And if this passes, we're putting our flag in the ground, and we're saying we're not going to tolerate our teachers being assaulted in our schools and nothing being done about it. We're not talking about trivial matters. These are assaults of teachers in the school building. As chair of education, I had information come to me that before the first day of school in one of our school systems, 3 teachers were assaulted that needed hospitalization. And so it is correct, they have the tools to take care of these issues, but once again, they are not being taken care of, and we have to act as a legislature and protect these teachers. I proudly vote aye.
Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams.
Senator from Boone, 20.
Mr. President, I'd like to explain my aye vote. There's a group that's been talked about here. This bill also addresses. We have over 635,000 students in Kentucky that witness these assaults. As a matter of fact, the other thing this bill addresses is those students themselves, and not just teachers, are subject to those assaults. And I think it might be likely they're more likely to be subject to the assaults than the teachers. And this bill addresses the reporting of student assaults as well. And we need to look at it. If the number is 700, I don't know what the number is, but that's 0.1%. We need to be very careful of losing track of the 99.9% of our students that want to go to school and learn and be safe because we're excusing the 0.1%. And I would say we're not just excusing the 0.1%. We may, in fact, be giving them a better path to success than staying in that school and continuing to assault not just their teachers, but their fellow students. So I proudly vote yes. I thank you very much for the Senator from Scott for bringing this forward.
Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Exchange or explain their vote. Senator from McCracken.
Mr. President, I'd like to explain my vote.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I agree with this bill in principle 100%, and there is no question that we need safer environments in our classrooms, and our teachers need to be able to teach. And I do know that the senator from Clark has gone through great effort to improve this bill, and he absolutely has improved the bill through listening to others and taking into consideration a lot of different opinions. However, one thing that has not been mentioned with this bill, and Mr. President, I have a tendency to dig down into levels, especially when it comes to dealing with children. And I'm always a little cautious with blanket policies, and that's in a lot of different areas, because you can't often do that because there are different situations that have to be considered that may not be the majority of situations, but very much possible and very much can and will happen. And with this piece of legislation, should there be a child that comes to school one day, and maybe that child has had a very difficult night, maybe that child has been abused the night before, and that child gets to school, and for whatever reason, something triggers that child to push a teacher, knocks her down, guess what that teacher has to do? She has to report that, and guess what happens if she doesn't? She or he could be arrested for a misdemeanor crime, an A or B misdemeanor for not reporting that. Is that really what we need to be doing to take that latitude? What about those kids that could very well make the difference in that child's outcome? If that child is kicked out of school for a year for that, and this is a child that is salvageable, a child that maybe that teacher has taken under their arms to try to help. And Mr. President, I say that because I know as a child, I was one of those kids that was a heartbeat away from taking a swing or getting thrown out of a ball game. That was me. And there were teachers that took me under their arms and had patience with me and taught me. But any day, I could have lashed out. And had that happened to me and I've been kicked out of school for a year, I'm not sure where I would be. And when we stop thinking about every child in the decisions we make up here, we've made a mistake. Thank you, Mr. President.
For explanation of the vote and have not been previously recognized, the chair is going to go to the senator from Jefferson 33. I have multiple people in the queue for explanation of their vote.
If you have multiple people in the queue, I prefer to defer. Does that exclude me?
You've been recognized.
Then I'm going to be recognized. Thank you for that, Mr. President. I did not intend to speak because I understand the intent here, and safety is important, particularly in any situation, but in a classroom. It's not that teachers take things into their classroom to defend themselves against something that they don't anticipate. But the fact of the matter is, I agree with the statements of those that have been made that says this is probably goes a little too far. Because just think about it. We are actually have an opportunity when a young person whose mind we know is not fully developed, we don't know what kind of crises they face, we know they make bad judgments. I know I did when I was that age. To grab them then and have somewhat of an evaluation or some process that keeps them with people who are trained to do the work to bring that child along. To give that up is a major thing. And I don't want to go to the point of saying that, you could infer ill intent in terms of what I'm trying to say here. What I'm really saying is, I think it's a missed opportunity if we go this far and we turn a child out into the world. We don't know what happens at that particular point. We actually put them into perhaps the pipeline that we don't want them to be in. and we don't know. So we're micromanaging from this point. And absolutism at this level, under these conditions and circumstances, I don't think is the best thing for us to do. I hope, and I know the senator from Scott is a very reasonable person, and I know he's well intended, and I hope we can continue conversations along this line and perhaps make it even better at the other end of the hall. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, some people came off of the queue. Senator from Scott, were you wanting to be recognized?
Yes, Mr. President.
You have 3 minutes.
Explain my yes vote. And it's not just because I am the sponsor. If I was not the sponsor of the bill, I would have voted yes. And I'm going to share something I was not sure I was going to share. Because not my finest moment of my life, but also I didn't want to make this an emotional thing and appeal to emotion. I wanted people to vote on the merits of this bill because of reason. Some of you may be shocked to know that I was not always this refined. The senator from Bell, if he was sitting here, could attest to that fact. He's known me and my family a really long time. Hooligan might be appropriate. And I was such a hooligan in the sophomore year of my school career, I was expelled for 60 days. It wasn't a year because I didn't assault a teacher, but I was expelled for 60 days, and it was appropriate. And the punishment from the school district was appropriate, and the punishment that came from my mother was just as appropriate and very harsh. But I can say with 100-degree certainty that I would not be standing in this room with any of you if that expulsion had not occurred. And so I'm thankful that those administrators made that decision. And my mother then followed up with the appropriate discipline and set me on the right course so that I could be here today to not only be with y'all, but protect teachers the way that I believe we should. So with that, Mr. President, I thank everyone for their support on this bill.
Seeing no other person seeking recognition, there being 27 yeas, 10 nays, Senate Bill 101 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Senator from Scott. Mr. President, at this time, I move that, let's see where my notes are taken. Senate Bill 129 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Bill 129.
Senate Bill 129, an act relating to unemployment insurance. Senator Nemes.
Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I yield to the Senator from Bullitt for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Bullitt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask the clerk to report Senate Floor Amendment 1.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Floor Amendment number 1.
Senate Floor Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 129.
Senator from Bullitt.
Yes, Mr. President. As the sponsor of Senate Floor Amendment 1, I move for it to be withdrawn.
Without objection, the sponsor of the amendment asking it be withdrawn. Madam Clerk, please make that notation. Senator from Bullitt.
Yes, Mr. President. I ask the clerk to report Senate Floor Amendment 2.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Senate Floor Amendment 2 to Senate Bill 129.
Senator from Bullitt.
I move for the adoption of Senate Floor Amendment 2.
The matter for the body is adoption of Senate Floor Amendment number 2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Ayes have it. Senate Floor Amendment number 2 is adopted. Senator from Bullitt.
Yes, Mr. President. Senate Bill 129, as amended by Senate Floor Amendment 2, is lowering the rate of unemployment insurance for the employers, the good employers, the businesses of this state. They stepped forward when and started a fund for the, it's called a SCUF fund. We didn't have enough money to, the computer system of the unemployment system was no good. So we wanted to upgrade it and or replace it. So they stepped forward with a higher rate to take care of this. This has pretty much been done, and now we want to lower that rate on them. And in so doing, we also want to keep the fund going for any repairs, updates, or replacements that's needed in the future. So we want to lower the rate. In the amendment, what it does is put a cap on that amount so it just doesn't keep adding and adding. And it will also, if the unemployment insurance fund itself gets too low, then no more will go into this computer fund, because if we don't have any funds to pay the insured, we don't need a computer system anyway. So with that, Mr. President, I move for the passage of Senate Bill 129 as amended by Senate Floor Amendment 2.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 129 as amended. Seeing no one seeking recognition, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Frohmeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Gibbons. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
There being 37 yeas, no nays, Senate Bill 129 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 162 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Bill 162.
Senate Bill 162, an act relating to children. Senator West.
Senator from Taylor.
President, I yield to the Senator from Bourbon for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Bourbon.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's nice that we can take a brief break with an unemployment insurance bill. Now we're back into education now again. Senate Bill 162 is a bill dealing with the fair teams. And, Mr. President, if you could, ask the clerk to report Senate Committee Substitute 1.
Mr. Clerk, would you please report Senate Committee Substitute number 1?
Senate Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 162.
Senator from Bourbon.
Move for adoption.
Matter for the body is adoption. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Committee Substitute number 1 is adopted. Senator from Bourbon.
Speak on the bill.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, 2014, Senate Bill 200 passed this legislature, and it was an effort to keep students out of the court system and out of confinement. And that bill at that time was a well-intentioned bill and had a lot of buy-in from all the stakeholders at that time. Fast forward to today, it has become clear that it's time for the fair teams, part of the law, to leave, to exit. It's not working. The system is not currently working as intended. The main issues and problems seem to be the length of time that the process takes, getting all the interested parties scheduled. It's clear in this legislature, if you try to get 2 legislators in the room at the same time and schedule a meeting, it's very difficult. But if you can imagine trying to get 5 people scheduled in a meeting and get them together at the same time, it becomes a problem. And it does cause great delays in the system. And another fact is that we're waiting long periods of time to receive services. These kids that are in these fair team situations are waiting really long times. And while they're waiting for these services, they are back in school. And so when they're back in school, they're causing the same types of problems for which, they're in diversion or they're in front of the fair teams. 162 eliminates the Family Accountability Interventions and Response Teams. It requires, just like with truancy, that complaints filed for beyond school control must be referred to the court-designated worker, to the county attorney for initial decision on whether the complaint is referred for formal court action or remain with a CDW for diversion. It ensures that any diversion agreement with the CDW must now include a provision that the student not only attend school regularly, but now must also refrain from conduct that constitutes cause for suspension or expulsion. If the student is suspended or expelled upon entering a diversion agreement, the CDW shall consult with the county attorney, and if the county attorney determines that the child has adequate opportunity to engage available services referred by the CDW, the child shall be considered to have failed the diversion. For a failed diversion for which the complaint was alleged beyond school control, the matter shall immediately be referred to the county attorney for formal court action, just like a failed truancy complaint. That's a mouthful, Mr. President, and I know if you're not normally involved in this process in the justice system, especially when it regards juveniles, it's very complex and it's very complicated, and there are layers and layers and layers, and there are different steps along the way. This bill simply removes one small part of that process before you get to the county attorney, the fair teams part of the process. There's still a CDW there to handle the process, and they do have some wiggle room, some ability to maybe work with what otherwise would have been fair teams and try to consider those things, but it just expedites the process and moves the cases along. And the most important thing that it does, it keeps the students who are beyond school control out of the school setting. And so it's safer for students and it's safer for teachers in the school building. Mr. President, we have worked closely with all of the stakeholders in this process. The county attorneys support this. The DPP Association supports this. The Kentucky Superintendents Association supports this. And the CDWs support this. All these groups support. If there are no further questions, Mr. President, I would move for passage of Senate Bill 162 as amended by Senate Committee Substitute 1.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 162 as amended. Seeing no one seeking recognition, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemes. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
To change or explain their vote, there being 30 yeas, 7 nays, Senate Bill 162 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 170 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Senate Bill, Senate Bill 170, an act relating to status offenses. Senator Storm.
Senator from Taylor.
President, I yield to the Senator from Laurel for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to talk to you about Senate Bill 170, a bill grounded in one simple belief, that when a child struggles with attendance, the answer is early intervention and family engagement. Mr. President, please ask the clerk to report Senate Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 170.
Mr. Clerk, would you please report? Senate Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 170.
Senator from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the last several months, I've worked side by side with school superintendents, directors of pupil personnel, county attorneys, judges, and the administrative office of the courts. We've examined what's working, what isn't working, and where our statutes are outdated or inconsistent. Mr. President, with the permission of the sponsor of Senate Floor Amendment Number 1, I move to withdraw Senate Floor Amendment Number 1.
First of all, we need to adopt the Senate Committee Substitute.
Okay. Mr. President, please ask the clerk to report Senate Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 170 if I have not already done that.
I think we've already done that.
Move adoption.
Matter for the body's adoption of Senate Committee Substitute Number 1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Committee Substitute Number 1 is adopted. Now, you are requesting that certain floor amendments be withdrawn?
Yes, Mr. President. After speaking with the primary sponsor of Senate Floor Amendment Number 1, I move to withdraw Senate Floor Amendment Number 1.
Without objection, Madam Clerk, please note that Senate Floor Amendment Number 1 is withdrawn. Senator from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please ask the clerk to report Senate Floor Amendment Number 2.
Mr. Clerk, would you please report?
Senate Floor Amendment 2 to Senate Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 170.
Senator from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Floor Amendment Number 2 makes a friendly technical correction by removing 3 words in the committee sub. Move adoption.
The matter before the body is adoption of Senate Floor Amendment Number 2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Floor Amendment Number 2 is adopted. Senator from Laurel.
Mr. President, please ask the clerk to report Senate Floor Amendment Number 3 to Senate Bill 170.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Senate Floor Amendment 3 to Senate Floor Amendment 2 to Senate Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 170.
Senator from Laurel.
Mr. President, Senate Floor Amendment Number 3 is a result of the Education Committee staff noticing a potential verbiage conflict in 2 separate sections in the Senate Committee substitute. Therefore, I move adoption.
The matter for the body is adoption of Senate Floor Amendment Number 3. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Floor Amendment Number 3 is adopted. Senator from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to also recognize Representative Nemes, who worked closely with me on this legislation. The bill reflects the shared commitment across chambers to early intervention, family engagement, and a smarter approach to truancy and status offenses. First, the bill establishes the SOAR Truancy Prevention Pilot Program in 10 school districts. Second, the bill strengthens diversion by making it a family diversion agreement, not just an agreement with the student, but all the family nucleus. Third, we require the Kentucky Department of Education to report data annually so this body can evaluate whether the court involvement actually improves attendance. Good policy must be informed by good data, Mr. President. Finally, and importantly, we address secure detention of status offenders. The bill prohibits the secure detention of children under 14 for status offenses. For children 14 and older, detention is limited to 7 days unless a judge makes written findings that continued detention is necessary for public safety. Let me be clear, the court retains authority and discretion to place a child in out-of-home setting when needed. Members, the bill is about responsibility, accountability, early intervention, and prevention. It's coordinated across systems of education and judicial. It's data-driven, and it's focused on helping children succeed before they enter deeper involvement with the justice system. This is what collaboration looks like. We worked with education leaders, prosecutors, the judiciary, the child welfare professionals who came to the table, and this is the product of all that work, Mr. President. Mr. President, if there's no questions, I move passage of Senate Bill 170 as amended by Senate Committee Substitute 1, Senate Floor Amendment 2, and Senate Floor Amendment Number 3.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 170 as amended. Senator from Jefferson 35.
Yes, may I speak on the bill?
Please proceed.
Yes, first I want to thank the senator for sponsoring this bill and working with folks. And I also want to thank one of my judges in Louisville, Judge Derwin Webb, who has been focused on supporting youth and families who have been involved in truancy. And so I know that this is an issue that he has been trying to wrap his arms around for a long time. And so I want to thank you all for that. But I also just kind of wanted to speak not only on this piece of legislation, but what we have heard today here in this body and my experiences as a practitioner working in the juvenile justice system. So for those who do not know, I used to be a court designated worker. I actually, crazy as it sounds, when I moved back to Kentucky in 2016 from Hawaii, my mother told me I needed to get a job, and I was like, Mom, I'm not staying here. And she said, no, you are. And so when I applied for a job, the first hit I got was from the CDW office. And so I worked with the Administrative Office of Courts for several years. And in that role, I was a court designated worker and then a court designated specialist, where I actually worked on the fair teams as well and worked with our high needs families. And the families who were engaged and involved on the fair teams and in the role that I did were kids who were high needs. And so some of them were kids who had status offenses. A lot of times they had a status offense, which for those who do not know what that is, it is beyond control of the parent, beyond control of the school, running away or doing something that is legal for adults to do, but not for kids to do. And of course, truancy is engaged in that. But a lot of times those kids, those families were also involved in family court already. The second type of young person that I had on my case was a kid who maybe had a public offense and they also were involved in family court. So these families that we dealt with were our families who had a lot of different issues. Some of the parents had substance abuse issues, or they were in and out of our correctional facilities. But those were the people that we dealt with. But I bring that up to say that when I was a member of the fair teams actually worked. And I think that sometimes what happens is sometimes it's the people who are around the table to put the care into those kids and into those families. And I want to lift up that sometimes when it didn't work, or I think overall arching what is happening with our juvenile justice system, especially at that diversion stage, is that we have not poured in the appropriate resources. Today we have heard 3 different bills dealing with youth who are justice involved or court involved, and not in one place does it talk about the finances. What is it going to take to keep these programs going? What is it going to take to make sure that the families have the things in which they need? And so one of the things that I would like to recommend, or this body to know and understand, as we're moving through the budget process, we have to figure out, as we're making changes to our juvenile justice code, is where are we putting the financial resources? And I say that because in this bill, Senate Bill 170, it talks about the resources. And so it is not fair for us as state folks to say that we are going to refer these kids to these community programs or to other things, but not provide the financial resources for nonprofits or groups in the community to work with these families. So I encourage us to do that. The other thing, Mr. President, that I would like for us to encourage us to think about as we're moving forward is that we have to do a better job when we're talking about our youth who are justice involved and family services involved, is how are we going to share data? Currently, as adults or as people, we can go to the doctor, and you may go to a Norton facility, you may go to a Baptist East facility, but you can go in and there's a chart and you can see everything that you've done or what doctor's appointments you've gone through or to. And I think that we can do something like that as well as it relates to our young people. I think that in order for us to really shape and make sure that we're giving the families and the kids the things that they need, that all of these systems need to be talking. Our school systems, our juvenile justice systems. So I look forward to seeing what that data piece is going to look like, and how do we create a data system to make sure that we're sharing that information. The other thing that I would like to say, and I know I talked about the funding, But we in this body over the last 2 years, we have put $25 million in retrofitting or changing the facility at the Jefferson County Juvenile Detention Center, 11 million at another facility, and another 9.6 million, and another 3 million. And so when we're talking about the money that is going into juvenile justice, all of those are for facilities. And I have not seen it. Maybe it is somewhere and I just haven't seen it. But I really encourage us to make sure that as we're moving forward, that we do put money into the upstream prevention, intervention, things like that. I know that the senator from Scott talked about the trauma in which young people, if they witness somebody hit a teacher or get in a fight. Let's also talk about the trauma that our kids are seeing in their communities. We have had a rise in gun violence, I know, in Louisville. We've had a rise in suicides amongst our young people. And again, we have not put that money in. So those same kids that we're talking about, those are the same kids that are sitting in our classrooms. And I just encourage this body, as we are doing anything related to juvenile justice, if it does not have a financial tag to it, I think that we need to reconsider what we're doing. Thank you.
Any other members seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemes. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Seeing no one seeking recognition to cast, change, or explain their vote, Senate Bill 170 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, that concludes the orders of the day.
Senator from Taylor, next order of business, meeting Rules Committee and Committee on Committees. Do you have a motion?
Mr. President, I do. I move to the Senate recess for meeting of the Rules Committee and Committee on Committees at the clerk's desk, please.
This body shall be in recess until call of the chair.
Then we'll come to order. Next order of business is report of committees. Mr. Clerk, please report.
There is no Rules Committee meeting, but there is a Committee on Committees. The Committee on Committees has met and referred the following bills and resolutions: to Licensing and Occupation, Senate Bill 65, to Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection, Senate Bill 156, and to the Senate floor, Senate Resolutions 111 and 112.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That concludes your report. Next order of business is motions, petitions, resolutions, communications, and announcements. Senator from Taylor, I believe we have one housekeeping motion.
We do, Mr. President. Make the following motion for a bill reading, please.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I move that House Bill 314 be taken from the Committee on State and Local Government, given its first reading, and returned to the Committee on State and Local Government.
Mr. Clerk, please report. First reading on House Bill 314.
House Bill 314, an act relating to the Kentucky Communications Network Authority and declaring an emergency.
Record reflect that House Bill 314 has been taken from State and Local Government Committee, given a first reading, and returned to committee. Now, continuing in the order of business of motions, petitions, resolutions, communications, and announcements. Senator from Clay, what purpose?
Communicate with the body, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, we even did it here today, and we've done it throughout this session. We've talked about health care, maybe about as much about health care as we've done almost any other issue except maybe for education. We've had turf battles. We've had questions about coverage, trauma, nurse practitioners, PAs, mental health, access to rural health care, placement of doctors, healthcare deserts. Those are just some of the terms you hear. Now, we as policymakers can't direct private entities to do much of anything, and shouldn't. But we have a couple of our teaching universities that are creatures of statute, and we can direct them to do things. Senator from Grayson, on many occasions, has talked about rural health care not just being a matter of rural health care, but economics. And it is. My little hometown, largest payroll, 600 employees, is well in excess of the local Board of Education. So what I am filing today, and it will be read into the record, and there is a lot of statistics. And since the university, Eastern Kentucky University, will be getting into health care by training osteopaths, they are included in this. The University of Kentucky, the University of Louisville, being our two teaching institutions, along with Eastern Kentucky University, are directed by January 1 of next year to provide the General Assembly with a report on how we as policymakers, the people who deliver or have a large portion of the delivery of health care and the training of many of our healthcare professionals, to give us a report on how we better access health care. Not just doctors, but health care. Doctors is one of them. We do things called J-30s, which gives expedited immigration access to foreign doctors who come here. They need to explore that. They need to look at recruitment of people in urban areas or underserved areas. Loan forgiveness, scholarships. There is a policy consideration about how do we expedite for and recognize European trained doctors. Maybe it needs to look like the J-30 program where they go to underserved areas. using artificial intelligence, networking, avatars, how a trauma center who may have, based on what we've done here, a nurse practitioner who needs to access one of our 2 Trauma 1 centers or our other Trauma 2 centers, which is Pikeville Medical. These institutions are to give us that report by January 1. Now, sometimes the universities say, well, you didn't give us any money. Well, there's $250,000 in this resolution for them to do this. But let me tell you what else I think. This is what really gripes me, and I could have a little bit more Clay County come out in me and have a few more descriptive words. We've talked about a lot of different things here that I've gone through, and we talked about just recently mental health. You know, how we access this. Well, let me tell you who I think should pay for this study, because the senator from Kenton knows on an operational budget, annualized receipts versus annualized revenues, this is going to be a tough budget, a tough budget. But I sit here and I look at the Kentucky Hospital Association. Now, if people don't get upset over this, then you can't get upset. Here is an association that charges their participants, and maybe we need to direct the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville not to participate because they are sitting on $60 million. I'm going to repeat that. $60 million. This isn't me. This is their 990s that they're required to report to the federal government. They actually have $63 million in assets, $3 million encumbered. And you should see the payroll of the people who are working there. There are people who are not administering health care at a hospital, not a director of health care, not a physician, that have compensation packages of close to $1 million a year. Wow. I saw the senator from Jefferson 26 just say what I said. Wow. Maybe they don't need to spend this $250,000 over out of our general fund. Maybe out of that $60 million, which I went down to the bank to look at this, we could put that $60 million on a 4% money market account, not have any penalties for withdrawing it. 4% would generate $2.4 million next year. That's about 10 times the amount we're asking to be spent here. They should be paying for this. They should be paying it with the interest on their principal. But I can tell you this, if that doesn't change, one of the next resolutions you may see next year, God willing and I'm still around, is going to be telling our major universities that they don't participate in an agency like that, because that's tragic. When the senator from Kenton's trying to balance a budget, why are we paying in with our state dollars, our Medicaid dollars, into an institution that has that type of bank balance? So hopefully, as I said, this will be read into the record, and we'll pass it out of this chamber because this is a joint resolution with the force of law that this will pass the other chamber. And we'll actually get evidence-based suggestions on how we have health care in underserved areas. Thank you, Mr. President.
Continuing the order of business, Senator from Kenton 23. What purpose?
For an announcement and then communicate with the body.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, for the announcement, the Appropriations and Revenue Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in room 171. Please be prompt as we do have a long agenda.
It's a 9 a.m. meeting, members of A&R. Please
9
take note.
a.m. And to communicate with the body, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, 4 years ago today, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. What many experts predicted would last just a few days or weeks has stretched into years. This did not happen by luck. This happened by the grit and commitment of the Ukrainian people. This happened early in the invasion because a ragtag band of civilians fought for their land with Molotov cocktails and very basic weapons. These small groups fought an unconventional war against a larger, more powerful aggressor in Russia. We have seen 4 years of bombardment, 4 years of resistance, and 4 years of sacrifice. The human cost has been staggering. There are estimates that hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and potentially over 1 million Russian soldiers have been killed and many, many more wounded. And civilians, families, children, the elderly have endured missile strikes, drone attacks, blackouts in winter, and the destruction of homes and hospitals. The cruelty of the Russian leadership knows no bounds. When it is cold, they attack the power supply. When it is time for harvest, they attack the fields. When it is time for learning, they attack the schools. Mass graves have been uncovered in liberated areas. There has been a forced deportation of Ukrainian children. These are not unfortunate acts of war, but they reflect a pattern the world has seen and condemned. And yet, Ukraine still stands. It stands because of the courage of its people. And it stands because it has not stood alone. Since 2022, the United States has provided tens of billions of dollars in security assistance, along with humanitarian and economic support. American provided systems from precision artillery to armored vehicles to advanced air defense systems have helped Ukraine defend its cities and hold its lines. Mr. President, alliances like this are not sentimental arrangements. They are strategic commitments. As a young infantry officer, I trained and served alongside officers from the Middle East who had fought terrorists, officers from the former Soviet bloc countries who stood on the front lines of the Cold War, officers who fought narco-terrorists in South and Central America. Our nation has a proud heritage of training soldiers from around the world. This strengthens their nations as well as ours. History teaches us repeatedly that alliances help strengthen our nation and provide for our common defense. In 1776, a fledgling nation, the United States relied on the alliance of France to secure our victory in the Revolutionary War. In 1940, the favor was returned when formerly great powers needed our help. In 1941. To buoy his people at their darkest hour, Winston Churchill confidently stated, "We shall go on to the end. We shall never surrender until in God's good time, the new world with all of its power and might steps forth to the rescue of the old." But as history has taught us, in the 1930s and the 1940s, hesitation in the face of aggression often prolongs conflict rather than shorten it. If Ukraine is given the tools necessary to defend its airspace and push back invading forces, the war's end comes closer. If American support falters, the war does not end, it hardens. The United States has not sent its sons and daughters into direct combat, but it has sent equipment, intelligence, training, and financial backing that have fundamentally shaped the battlefield. This support has not only aided Ukraine, it has reaffirmed a principle that has underpinned global stability since the end of World War II, that borders are not changed by force. We must not falter in our support for this fledgling nation, nor must we cease our demands that European nations do the same. This war has evolved from the initial conflict involving scrappy bands of fighters into a full-scale stalemate, driven by a new and unparalleled use of drone technology. Now, why, you might ask, does this have relevance in the Commonwealth? It has relevance for two reasons. First of all, Ukrainians are showing the world how to fight with drones. On the other side, the Russian drone program is propped up by the world's worst authoritarian regimes. Regimes with many, many motivations, not the least of which is how they can use this new and emerging technology for aggression of their own. Russia has deepened ties with Iran, North Korea, and China in varying degrees, receiving drones, artillery shells, and economic lifelines. China counts on cheap Russian oil to power its economy. I will remind you, Mr. President, that China is the very nation whose leader has ordered its military to prepare for an invasion of Taiwan by the end of the decade. I do not need to remind the members of this body of the importance of Taiwan to the economy of the Commonwealth. In exchange for Russia providing cheap oil, China keeps Russia in a steady flow of high-tech drone parts and low-tech artillery from North Korea. Iranian drone designs teach the Russians how to keep up with Ukraine. If Ukraine is to prevail, not merely survive, but win, it must have the means to protect its skies and defend its people. Air defense is not an offensive luxury. It is the shield that prevents apartment buildings from collapsing in the night. It's the difference between children sleeping safely and families huddling in basements. Advanced air defense systems save civilian lives. Longer-range precision weapons degrade the ability of invading forces to resupply and regroup. Artillery, armored vehicles, and munitions determine whether defensive lines hold. Wars are not won by rhetoric. They are won by capacity. They are won by alliances. I do not advocate for the involvement of the citizens of the United States in this conflict, but I do advocate for unceasing support for people who want to live free and, while they fight for their freedom, help erode the capacity of the nations who are the sworn enemies of the United States. The second reason that this is relevant, Mr. President, is today we have a large Ukrainian population in Nicholasville. And that population, as well as Ukrainians across our Commonwealth, watches and waits. For them, this war is not abstract. It is about family members serving in uniform. It is about relatives living under daily missile threats or in Russian-occupied territories. 4 years in, fatigue is understandable. Mr. President, this is not about endless war. It is about enabling a sovereign nation to defend itself effectively so that aggression fails. When aggression fails, deterrence is strengthened. When deterrence is strengthened, stability is preserved. The United States has already contributed significantly, financially, militarily, and diplomatically. The question now is whether we sustain that resolve long enough to see some fundamental principles through. The principles that might does not make right. The principle that alliances matter. And the principle that free nations do not abandon one another when tested. 4 years ago today, the world was shocked. Today, the world must remain steady. And here in Kentucky, with Ukrainian neighbors among us, we remember that freedom defended abroad reinforces security here at home. Thank you, Mr. President.
Under this order of business, next to be recognized is Senator from Christian. What purpose?
Co-sponsor request, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
With the permission of the primary sponsor, I move to be added co-sponsor Senate Bill 223.
Senator from Grayson, 5. What purpose?
Speak to the body, Mr. Chair.
Please
Mr.
proceed.
President.
Please proceed.
I want to thank the Senator from Clay for his resolution that he just spoke to. Certainly, it's a problem that's been long ignored. Certainly, the lack of health care providers is a major impediment to access to care, but another one is affordability. We heard a presentation yesterday at our Medicaid Oversight and Advisory Board on the drug GLP-1, which is very popular now for weight reduction, and how much it was costing our Medicaid budget. As part of that discussion, we had one of the manufacturers speak to us about how the retail price of this drug was around $900 per dose, but under a program they were going to offer to our state, it was going to be about $245 a dose. So, wow, cause for celebration, is it not? But I pose the question, why do we have to pay $245 when Japan pays $169, Canada pays $147, the United Kingdom pays $90, Germany pays $100, Australia pays $80? But we're supposed to celebrate because we got a price reduction of $245. And you know what's really disturbing? If they charged us $10, they would make 100% profit margin on their Joe. It costs about $5 per unit to manufacture this. As you've heard me say before, we have a crisis in America with healthcare costs, and it's going to collapse our economy. We're going to have to be more assertive in what we do and more demanding. And I don't know, for our Medicaid program, since we serve the most vulnerable, why should we be buying drugs at cost plus a reasonable markup? And I think the pharmaceutical companies need to have some accountability in this measure as well. You know, they campaigned long and hard last session against extending 340B discounts to us, which cost our state about $250 million. And to the Senator from Clay's point earlier, CEO salaries, the average compensation for the top 10 drug manufacturers in the United States, average compensation, $25 million. We've got to take the greed out of healthcare, or again, it's going to collapse our economy. I believe in everybody making a fair profit. I'm a capitalist to the nth degree, but as Mahatma Gandhi said, commerce without morality is a deadly sin. And that's one of the major issues with healthcare today. So I hope at some point in time there's an awakening, and I hope the study will come back in next January, starts that conversation in earnest, not just for the Medicaid patient, but for all of us. You know, we're crushing working families throughout this country on the cost of health care, and there's no excuse for that when other countries can do it cheaper. But one of the reasons they can do it cheaper is they're not being taken advantage of the way we are with prescription drugs. Mr. President, if I may, I have an announcement as well.
Please proceed with your announcement.
Health Services Committee meet at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll be hearing two bills, Senate Bill 173 and Senate Bill 137 in room 129. And just a reminder again, upon adjournment tomorrow evening, we will have a special called meeting Health Services. And again, my commitment to you is that will last about an hour. So please have that on your calendar. Thank you, Mr. President.
Members, please take note, 8 a.m. meeting as called by the Senator from Grayson. Senator from Marion, you're next to be recognized under this order of business. What purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Announcement and to act on a Senate resolution.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Transportation Committee will not meet tomorrow.
Members, please take note, no meeting tomorrow. Senator from Marion, your action on a resolution.
Would, Mr. President, would you ask clerk to please report Senate Resolution 30, read it by title only?
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Resolution 30 by title.
Senate Resolution 30, a resolution adjourning the Senate in honor and loving memory of John William Willie Ellery. Senator Higdon.
Senator from Marion.
Move for its adoption.
Motion for the body is on adoption of Senate Resolution number 30. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Senate Resolution 30 is adopted. Senator from Jefferson 26, you're next in the queue. What purpose?
Vote modification.
Please proceed.
I was absent from the floor and wish to record a couple of votes, which I've already handed in. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator from Clark, what purpose do you wish to be recognized?
First, co-sponsorship, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, with the permission of the primary sponsor, I wish to be added to Senate Bill 222, and I have the proper paperwork.
Thank you, sir. What other purpose?
For the purpose of making a motion, Mr. President.
Please proceed with your motion.
Mr. President, I have with the clerk Senate Resolution 69, if he would call it and read it by title only, please.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Resolution 69 by title.
Senate Resolution 69, a resolution adjourning the Senate in honor of the 85th anniversary of the East Kentucky Power Cooperative and its rich history of electrifying rural communities across the Commonwealth. Senator Elkins.
Senator from Clark.
Speak on the resolution, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. I rise today, Mr. President, to recognize the 85th anniversary of the East Kentucky Power Cooperative. East Kentucky Power Cooperative has been a part of our community for several generations, providing power, growth, and opportunity across rural Kentucky. Let's not forget when East Kentucky Power was founded in 1941, much of rural America still lived in the dark. The cooperative model, owned by members it serves, brought with it the idea that reliable electricity was no longer reserved only for our cities. It was a promise of power that extended to every small town and every farm throughout our Commonwealth. For 85 years, this cooperative model has done more than generate electricity. It has generated opportunity. It has fueled small businesses and homes on Main Street from Winchester to Hazard, from Maysville to Campbellsville. It has powered our schools, our hospitals, our manufacturers, and maybe most importantly, our family farms that, as we all know, are a vital part of the Commonwealth's economy. With its headquarters in Winchester, Kentucky, East Kentucky Power Cooperative today provides wholesale power to 16 member-owned distributors, serving approximately 570,000 homes and businesses, maintaining more than 2,900 miles of transmission line and 379 substations across the Commonwealth. As we celebrate the history of East Kentucky Power today and its 85th anniversary, we also should celebrate its future. As I am certain everyone in this chamber realizes, the energy challenges of tomorrow are real and they are substantial. With the knowledge, experience, and innovative spirit acquired in the past 85 years, I feel quite confident that East Kentucky Power Cooperative will rise to that challenge, to the challenge of powering Kentucky for decades to come. Now, Mr. President, it is my honor to move for adoption of Senate Resolution 69.
The motion for the body is on adoption of Senate Resolution number 69. Any member seeking recognition to speak to the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Senate Resolution 69 is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator from Clark. Senator from Clay, I have you next in the queue. What purpose?
Action on a resolution.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, if you would have the clerk report Senate Resolution 87.
Want that by title or entirety?
By title only.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Resolution number 87 by title.
Senate Resolution 87, a resolution adjourning the Senate in honor of the service of Anthony S. Tony Campbell, a former President and Chief Executive Officer of East Kentucky Power Cooperative.
Senator from Clay.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator and I had a little bit of coordination here, Senator from Clark, because he was doing this and the Executive Director, CEO of East Kentucky Power retired this summer. That's Tony Campbell. They will be here tonight at the Foundry. Tony is going to go on to, I would say, a very nice and quiet and enjoyable retirement, but he has done a lot for Eastern Kentucky in the way of economic development and recruitment, and just wanted to honor him on the same day as East Kentucky Power was recognized for 85 years of service. And with that, I would move adoption of the resolution.
Motion for the body is on adoption of Senate Resolution number 87. All those in favor of the motion for adoption say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Record will reflect that Senate Resolution 87 has been adopted. Senator from Bourbon, what purpose?
Act on a citation, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, please ask the clerk to report Senate Floor Citation 5 and read by title only.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Citation 5 by title.
Senate Citation 5, a citation honoring the Commonwealth's newest National Board for Professional Teaching Standards certified teachers.
Senator from Bourbon.
Speak on measure.
Please proceed.
Yes, Mr. President, I want to bring this to the floor's attention. This is a citation for teachers who have participated in the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards certification process. This requires a year-long assessment process, which begins with documentation of the educator's knowledge of the subject matter and follows with evidence of the educator's demonstrated ability. These professional standards and credentials are the highest an educator can obtain within the teaching profession. And the reason I'm bringing this forward, Mr. President, is we have 83 teachers in the state of Kentucky who have participated this year and graduated with this distinction. And with this citation, we would attempt to recognize them for their great achievement. And I would move for adoption of Senate Citation 5.
Motion for the body is on adoption of Citation 5. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Citation is adopted. Senator from Shelby 7, what purpose?
Communicate with the body, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Members, I rise briefly to bring your attention to Senate Bill 196, an act relating to grooming. This is not a companion bill to House Bill 4, rather an additional protective measure. Across our nation, we are seeing a troubling trend. Predators slipping through the cracks of systems that were designed to protect children. Too often, misconduct is not addressed early enough, and we fail to act before real harm is done. This bill sets a 2-year buffer where a teacher cannot date a student for 2 years after that student's graduation date. Senate Bill 196 is one step toward closing those gaps. It clearly defines grooming behavior and strengthens the ability of our education system to act when inappropriate conduct toward students is identified, even before criminal conviction occurs. This bill is about protecting kids, it's about setting clear standards, and it's about making sure those entrusted with our children are held accountable. I respectfully ask you to read Senate Bill 196 and consider signing on as a co-sponsor. And thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Bullitt, what purpose?
Announcement, Mr. President.
Proceed with your announcement.
Senate, state, and local government will meet tomorrow at 11 a.m.
11 a.m. meeting, state and local. Members, please take note. Senator from McCracken, what purpose?
Announcement, Mr. President.
Proceed with your announcement.
Mr. President, TVA has asked me to announce that they will have a breakfast event tomorrow morning, breakfast and base load. This will be in room 125 of the annex from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. All are invited.
Members, please take note. Senator from Bell, you're next in the queue. What purpose?
Sponsorship request, Mr. President.
Please proceed with your request.
With the permission of the primary sponsor, I wish to be added to Senate Bill 52. I have the proper paperwork.
Thank you, sir. Senator from Henderson, what purpose?
Announcement, Mr. President.
Proceed with your announcement.
Mr. President, in line with the Senator from Clark and Senator from Clay's resolution, a legislative reception hosted by the electric cooperatives and the IOUs will be this evening. I believe you heard the Senator from Clay point to that. It's going to be from 6 to 9 at the Foundry, and they promise to have the UK basketball game on.
Thank you, sir. Senator from Perry, what purpose?
Mr. President, the purpose of an announcement.
Please proceed with your announcement.
I would like to speak to the members of the Natural Resource Committee and let them know that we will be meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock in room 129. Please be there on time so we can get our work covered and get out of there so the next committee can get in. Thank you.
Room 129, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Members, please take note. Senator from Boone 20, what purpose?
Co-sponsor.
Proceed with your request.
With permission of the co-sponsors, I have submitted co-sponsor requests.
Thank you. Any other members seeking recognition on this order of business? Seeing none, the next order of business is introduction of floor amendments. Mr. Clerk, do we have any floor amendments? There being no need, the next order of business is introduction of new bills and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, please report new bills and resolutions into the record.
New bills and resolutions. Senate Bill 227, an act relating to veterans, Senator Dineen. Senate Bill 228, an act relating to public protection, Senator Dineen. Senate Bill 229, an act relating to children, Senator Carroll. Senate Bill 230, an act relating to military affairs, Senator Dineen. Senate Bill 231, an act relating to child mental health, Senator Carroll. Senate Bill 232, an act relating to transportation, Senator Higdon. Senate Bill 233, an act relating to property owner associations, Senator Neal. Senate Bill 234, an act relating to education, Senator West. Senate Bill 235, an act relating to education, Senator West. Senate Bill 236, an act relating to education, Senator West. Senate Bill 237, an act relating to occupational license fees, Senator Williams. Senate Bill 238, an act relating to the forensic processing of firearms, Senator Berg. Senate Bill 239, an act relating to children, Senator Berg. Senate Bill 240, an act relating to students' rights, Senator Berg. Senate Bill 241, an act relating to a dedication for professional membership, for a deduction for professional membership dues, Senator Clemens. Senate Bill 242, an act relating to the Grocery Store Initiative Fund, Senator Herron. Senate Bill 243, an act relating to Juneteenth National Freedom Day, Senator Neal. Senate Resolution 114, Senate Resolution 114, resolution commemorating the 80th Southern Legislative Conference of the Council of State Governments Southern Office, Senator Stivers. Senate Concurrent Resolution 115, a concurrent resolution establishing the Economic Development Initiative Modernization Task Force, Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senate Joint Resolution 116, joint resolution directing the University of Kentucky, the University of Louisville, and Eastern Kentucky University to coordinate a search for actionable solutions to physician shortages and to explore and expand healthcare opportunities in medically underserved areas in collaboration with community, state agency, professional associations, and other stakeholders, making an appropriation therefore and declaring an emergency. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next order of business is adjournment. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, with that, I move that the Senate adjourn until 2 p.m. Wednesday, February 25th, year of our Lord, 2026.
The Senate shall stand adjourned until 2 p.m. Wednesday, February 25th.